Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Eyes on Geopolitics, a special one with Jack Murphy, Sean Naylor. They have the High Side Substack. You should check it out. That link is in the description. Um, they do stories that most news outlets don't do or don't have the sourcing to do. Usually, what happens is they'll do a story about something like zero units and omega teams, and then like big publications will rip them off and do stories about it too, like 6 months, a year later. At least that's my observation. So if you
Sometimes.
want, yeah, if you want the news, like really cool espionage, special operations stories, go to the High Side Substack. That link is in the description. It's well worth it. Uh, the story we're talking about today is pretty crazy because I've been waiting for this to happen for like years now, like 3, 4 years now. When Jack told me about this, it's about a sighting that the CIA initially thought was Osama bin Laden in the Shintrel Valley. Is that how you say it?
The
Shintrel?
Central.
Central in Pakistan. You know, some CIA contractor spotted this guy, took video of it. I mean, you guys know the story better than I do, and it's on the High Side right now, so check out the High Side. Jack, where do you want to start with this? Because this has been a story that's been in the making for like a decade.
Yeah. I'll kind of flesh out a little bit of like the backstory. Some people might be interested in how sort of this story came about. And sometimes reporters have to sit on a story for a certain amount of time, and there's a few different reasons why you might have to do that. Um, but long story short, the source in this case wasn't comfortable coming forward with it just yet, so I basically had to wait a little over a decade, I think, before we could really do the story. But for me, on my side, it started, like I said, probably over a decade ago at this point, where I was told that somebody would like to meet with me, and but you got to go talk to him in person. It was all kind of like, what? So I got on a train to a undisclosed location, and I remember I was on the train all day. Got off the train, I'm at the station, and meet this guy. And yeah, I won't give any identifying details. I say I met this gentleman, and we were going to go out to a diner and eat. And he's like, "Hey, before we go in there in front of all those people, I want to talk to you privately." And we sit in his car. So I'm sitting in the passenger seat of his car, and he's telling me his whole story, which is what this article became. And he hands me a manila envelope, like a manila folder, and I fold it out. And inside is pictures he took of Osama bin Laden in 2005. And I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. So he tells me the whole story. We go and have lunch, and I think I may have stayed the night there and then took the train back the next day. But he wasn't comfortable going forward with the story just yet. So I had to hold on and wait until he was comfortable with it, because it is his pictures, and it's his story. And I wasn't going to go forward and put him in an uncomfortable position, of course. Um, so just in the last couple months, we started earnestly working on the story. And Sean started, Sean pretty much wrote this story. I did a lot of the reporting and investigating, but Sean pretty much wrote and edited this whole piece.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of kind of like you were, D, but a bit later on. I mean, when Jack described this to me a few months ago, my reaction was like, wait, what? At first part of me was like, okay, so some CIA guy or CIA contractor guy thinks he saw Osama bin Laden in remote part of Pakistan. Okay. And then, but the killer was, Jack said, and he took photographs. I'm like, okay, interesting. And then Jack's like, and we have the photographs. And then I was like, okay, why, let's publish this story as soon as possible. Now that we've gotten the green light from the original source. And I do think it's important to say that when we started working on the story, we were of the opinion, because as we explain in the article, the when these photographs got sent back to Langley, to CIA headquarters, their photo analysts determined that the figure in the photographs, who looked like Osama bin Laden, almost certainly was Osama bin Laden. Now, the reporting that we've done in the last sort of 6 weeks or so indicates that probably isn't true. And it was probably a doppelganger. Well, the Pakistani government supposedly tracked this guy down after being given a sort of a heads up on it by the CIA. And as we mentioned in the article, it probably wasn't too hard for the Pakistanis to track this guy down, because even though it's the middle of nowhere in Pakistan, the still images from the video that the CIA contractor took have the vehicles that the Osama lookalike character is riding in's license plate clearly visible on them. So I would imagine,
and there's signage too of like there's signages of like the market and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I would assume analysts can figure that out.
Yeah, but I would imagine, not for me to tell police state intelligence organizations how to do their job, but I would imagine if the Director General of the ISI, Pakistan's sort of leading intelligence agency, gets a photograph like that, it quickly goes down the chain of command, and somebody probably hot foots it up to Chitral to figure out who's got that vehicle with that license plate. And once they found that out, I would imagine it would be pretty easy to figure out who his passenger was. And we explain who the passenger was in all likelihood, because the CIA themselves then sent individuals into a remote part of Afghanistan to track this guy down, and they managed to do that, and they confirmed that it was a guy who looked exactly like Osama bin Laden, but was not Osama bin Laden.
Just to back up a little bit and tell people, what we're talking about, how it came about. This story is fundamentally about 3 people, all working for the CIA, a case officer, a contractor, and a interpreter / driver that went up into a very remote valley in Afghanistan. Not that they had any reporting, but they sort of had a hunch, like this is a valley south of Kunar, Tora Bora, where bin Laden was last known sort of in that area. Some people suspect he came across the border from a town called Barakote. So it's kind of makes sense that he could be in the Chitral Valley system. So they drive up there to take photographs, and one of them is a member of a organization in the Counterterrorism Center that was kind of just called the Surveillance Group. As I understand, it was started by Billy Waugh, and those guys, they were contractors, and they were nicknamed the Marco Polos. Sometimes you might hear that name thrown about. And what he was doing, this surveillance job, they were going into, recon this valley and, see maybe if this is a place where bin Laden could possibly be hiding. Instead of taking pictures, because obviously you're just walking around taking pictures all day, he found it easier to just have a camcorder and just make recordings. And at the time this incident happened, they were pulled off on the side of the road, and he was holding the camera right here. Like he'd be doing that as they're driving around recording. And so while they're on the side of the road doing like a map check, this vehicle comes down on the opposing lane of traffic, and it's like a Jeep with a driver, a passenger, and a couple kids in the bed of the truck. And the passenger, I mean, when you look at the photographs, which are in this story, you'll be like, holy shit, that's bin Laden. Like that. And that's exactly what these CIA personnel thought. They're like, oh my God. And then you get into the question of, well, and we didn't write about this in the article, but, well, if they saw bin Laden, why didn't they just take him out right then? They had pistols, they had rifles in the trunk. And the source told me, interestingly, he was like, I had never, even in 2005, seen a lethal finding on Bin Laden. So he's like, if I got out of the car and shot him, I could have gone to jail. He could have gotten charged.
Wow.
Now, realistically, I don't think that ever would
Sure.
happen. But, there was that. And then the other factor was, okay, great, you killed Bin Laden, but good luck getting out of that valley, bro.
Yeah.
You're not going to, there's only one way in and out. So that's a one-way trip for you.
And he wasn't traveling with like a 30 man like, motorcade or whatever.
It defied some of the expectations. That he was traveling around in the open, that he didn't have a security detail around him. These were kind of surprises. And they took those. After they got that footage, they took it back to their base. And they took still photographs from the video. I think 26 stills. Sent it back to CTC and the surveillance group, and they did an analysis. And the analysis that came back positively identified Bin Laden somewhere above the 90th percentile. I mean, this was considered the best evidence we had on Bin Laden on his location since 2002. And then from there, there's a whole unwinding of this story, which Sean got into a little bit.
Yeah, and I think. Obviously, I wanted it to be Bin Laden. I wanted this to be like some crazy thing, because there isn't much talked about where he was between, 2001 and 2011.
Well, it could be.
Yeah.
I think it's plausible that it was not Bin Laden. But I think there's also a chance that it could have been. And I think that even if we had access to all of the CIA's secret documents and files, I don't think you could ever at this point prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is or it isn't. I don't think you're gonna get that close to the truth. But there is, as Sean got into a little bit, one of the big breaks, I guess, or one of the surprising hits I had as I was canvassing people for more information about this. And I'm sure all of the former agency people that I send these canvas emails out to really appreciate my prying. But I did find somebody who was actually sent up into Kunar in Afghanistan because they thought that this Bin Laden, quote unquote, in air quotes, at this point, might be up there, and they sent him up to confirm or deny. I don't know. Maybe you want to take it from there, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, that was an testament to your source network, but also still a lucky break that you reached out to a guy who happened to have been someone who had the sort of knowledge of the eyes-on mission to check out basically what the Pakistanis had told the Americans about. It's not Bin Laden, it's really this other guy, don't worry about it. And I think the CIA was like, trust but verify, when it came to that. So they sent their own team up to Kunar. There was a sort of a cover for action, if you like, for that mission where they went up with some Navy SEALs and some of their Afghan militiamen to do a medcap, which is basically it's when you bring medical personnel into the hinterland and offer first aid and basic medical care to the locals who may not have had access to that previously. And there were a couple of agency officers on those helos going up into Kunar, and they sort of, I guess, peeled off from the medcap and tracked down the chief of police and the local Afghan intelligence representative and said, hey, we're looking for this guy and he looks just like Osama bin Laden. And the police chief apparently was like, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he does look like bin Laden. Come with me. We'll go meet him. Very shortly thereafter, the the CIA officer was face to face with the Bin Laden lookalike.
Bin Laden
Supposedly was
cosplayer.
the guy who was photographed in Chitral. And I don't have any reason to doubt that. It, as Jack said, anytime you're involved with such a strategic level issue, particularly if it was really Bin Laden in Chitral, the Pakistanis would have been looking very suspicious. And I quote somebody in the article, somebody who'd been posted to the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad, saying that as far as they were concerned, while they don't think that this individual was Osama bin Laden, they are convinced that the Pakistanis were managing bin Laden, that the ISI had, probably a small compartmented team that was managing bin Laden.
It was like its reverse Alex station.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting parts of the story, especially for people who get into the sort of spy versus spy business and who are interested in the controversial way, I think, that the US government has handled its relations with Pakistan since 9/11, is that the station chief, the CIA station chief in Islamabad, in the senior CIA officer in Pakistan, was back in Washington at around this time, well, just after this mission into Chitral, where they caught the Bin Laden looking character on camera, because the head of the ISI, then Lieutenant General Kayani, who went on to become the head of the entire Pakistani army, he was at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, the U.S. Bethesda Naval Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, just a 10-minute drive from where I am right now, getting treatment, which is the sort of thing that apparently the U.S. government offered a lot of senior Pakistani military and intelligence folks, if there was a belief that they could at some point be of use to the United States. And so the station chief takes it upon himself to supposedly go into Kayani's hospital room and kind of boast to him, almost, to say, hey, we've got photographic proof that bin Laden is in Pakistan, and sort of, here it is. And so supposedly Kayani took that in stride and said, okay, well, we'll look into it. And then the story transpired as we've discussed already. The individual that is the supposed person who was photographed and who the CIA officers met up in Kunar was actually an Afghan lumber merchant who frequently crossed the border from Kunar and sort of that part of Afghanistan, the sort of northeastern part of Afghanistan, across the border into Pakistan, into the Chitral Valley, and he was on one of those trips when he got photographed.
I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the conspiracy theorist in me is like, if they really were managing bin Laden, right? Why not, get a double and
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. I mean, if it really was him, they would go in there and really manage him and get him under thumb at that point and try to redirect attention elsewhere. But I don't know that that's the case.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's like a conspiracy. Obviously a conspiracy. Like, that's a reach. There's no evidence of that.
And what was quite clear from our interviews was that the the act of the CIA station chief divulging this information to the head of the ISI made a lot of people in the CIA very upset.
Yeah, I put it right here. I put that like highly controversial in the CIA in my notes right here, because I'm sure he did it on his own. No, like talking with whoever you need to talk to be like, maybe this is a move or something like that. Well, why is this beneficial for us? Yeah, I'm sure people were not happy.
Yeah, there's a long running sort of I don't know how to describe it, cleft in the CIA, or certainly controversy certainly back then as to whether the Islamabad station was too friendly with the ISI. The ISI essentially had created virtually the Taliban, or at least the Taliban would never have been able to take over Afghanistan the first time without the ISI's support. And the ISI only reluctantly sort of half dropped them as clients after 9/11, when the United States was in full sort of blood and thunder mode in the wake of 9/11. But they pretty quickly picked them up again, and you had this absurd situation where the United States would sometimes describe Pakistan as an ally, but the whole reason in the end that the United States was bogged down in a war in Afghanistan was because of the Taliban, which the ISI was supporting. The Shura that ran the Taliban, the Quetta Shura, was based in Quetta, which is a garrison town in Baluchistan in Pakistan. So it became very frustrating, and there was a real feeling right after 9/11 that that amongst some of the CIA officers who were working with the Northern Alliance, that the Islamabad station had sort of essentially been captured by the ISI. I'm not saying that was the case. I'm just saying that perception existed amongst some in the agency.
I mean, is that an effort on the Islamabad station to like cooperate better with like the country's intelligence service?
Yeah, there are always these sorts of accusations of like source capture, that you want to appease the liaison that you're working with, and there's you probably have heard these complaints about the State Department too, that they especially the political appointees, they forget who they're working for because they get so close to the host nation.
Yeah.
I
mean, CIA guys would know the difference, though.
Yeah, it's just that in a lot of these countries, the liaison relationship is key to how the CIA operates, and in a lot of the countries, it makes obvious sense. Okay, I mean, obviously, in other Western countries, the London station chief, you would expect to have incredibly close relations with MI6 and so forth. Even in the more authoritarian but generally pro-Western Arab capitals, like in Morocco or somewhere like that, you'd expect to have a close liaison relationship. In Pakistan, it just becomes more controversial because the ISI so often has seemed to be working against American interests. So it starts to become a question of who is playing who in that relationship.
Yeah, and it's funny. You guys mentioned there was a report that came out after Bin Laden was killed by Pakistan, and in that report there was one line talking about that valley. Yeah. And another thing about that was very interesting that speaks to the CIA-ISI relationship is like they reported in that report that after that moment, the CIA pretty much stopped cooperating with the ISI.
Yeah, certainly on Bin Laden's location. That supposed hospital room conversation in which the station chief divulged what the CIA thought of regarding these photographs from Chitral. According to the Abbottabad Commission, which is the commission that the Pakistani government set up in the wake of the 2011 raid on Abbottabad that killed Osama bin Laden. According to the station chief, I beg your pardon, according to the head of the ISI, who was referenced in the Abbottabad Commission report, that conversation was the last time that the CIA fed any useful information to ISI about where they thought Bin Laden might be. So it certainly proved. I mean, that was a nice thing to find in the report, because it made clear that the CIA had indeed. It backed up our sources who said, yeah, the CIA told the ISI that they thought Bin Laden was in Chitral. So
yeah, another crazy part. You guys referenced the Exile. Is that the book you guys referenced in the article?
Yeah.
Where they think that Osama bin Laden went from Kunar, I want to say, to Karachi for a couple months. I mean, how does the world's most wanted guy go to a fucking Karachi? I mean, it's not exactly a short drive for a couple months before he ends up in Abbottabad. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, how he got there, I'm not sure, but those cities in Pakistan are immense, densely packed. It's easier to hide, I would say in a big city like that than out in a remote valley somewhere, frankly. They ended up, I mean, when they ended, one of the ironic things about this is that the agency when they were sure that they'd found him in Chitral, they had a rethink about what his footprint would be like, and they were like, wow, there's no visible security detail here at all. We've sort of been barking up the wrong tree on that regard for the last few years. And then it turned out that even though that wasn't in all likelihood the real Bin Laden, the actual real Bin Laden also wasn't using a big security detail.
Yeah, who do you have in that compound? His sons, the courier, and the wives.
There's one armed guy, I think, on the ground floor, if I recall right.
Yeah.
And then they also did like a what do they call it? Medcap, right? Around Abbottabad when they did the vaccines or whatever to see if they can see inside.
Yeah, that wasn't really a medcap per se. It was they had a doctor who was giving polio vaccines, but was also sort of helping the CIA on the side. I
moonlighting, yeah.
Well, I think the idea was they were trying to get DNA, and that's from the compound to see if any of the kids he could get DNA from had, Bin Laden family DNA in them.
I really would love a deep dive about the relationship between the CIA and ISI and this 20 plus years of.
It's like a story that you're never going to get the whole story on that one.
Right.
I think, I mean, I know we're here to talk about our work, but I think Steve Coll has done a lot of work on that. If you look through his books, and The Exile, the book that that you mentioned that we reference in the article is a very deeply reported book on the movement of Osama bin Laden and his family and the other senior Al-Qaeda leaders as they were in flight after 9/11 and especially Tora Bora, and where they went and so forth. I think it's an extraordinary work of reporting that should have gotten more publicity when it was published.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys know him, I'd love to get him on, either here or.
I don't. We could look though,
because I think like the times where Bin Laden was missing for 10 years, right? And it's just like little hits here and there that are in the public sphere, but for the most part, the story's really not super flushed out.
Well,
another bit of thing I want to talk about the CIA and ISI connection. I spoke to a former CIA paramilitary officer who wrote, "Or they lied because it turns out they were the ones hiding him." That's a direct quote from a CIA PMO.
Right, and that brings up all sorts of questions about what did Kayani really know, and when did he know it? And then it gets into some other stuff that's even more controversial. The Seymour Hersh article.
Sure.
That implies, if not says outright, that the Pakistanis knew we were coming on some level, at a high level. And there were assurances made they'd keep their aircraft on the ground that night. It's one of those stories. You're never going to get the whole story on what really happened there.
I read the Seymour Hersh article. It seemed a bit crazy.
I agree that there are parts of it that I don't think are true, but there are other parts of it I think likely are. And that's the confusing thing with some of Mr. Hersh's latter works, is that it comes across like a mix to me. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, he's actually getting a Netflix documentary about him.
He's done incredible work. In years past, broke massive national security stories.
Yeah. Yep. So what are you guys cooking up next? What do we got on the burner?
I am trying my best to wrestle the second half, the concluding part of our two-parter on Havana syndrome to the ground before the end of the year. I may never want to hear the phrase Havana syndrome again once I'm done with that, but it's pretty interesting. We are going to anybody who's watching who's a long time subscriber to the High Side, you may be wondering what happened to our series called In the Kill Zone, The Life and Times of Willie Murkison, which has been on a lengthy hiatus, but which I fully intend to finish up in the new year with some, with a crazy story right out of the bat. Still, we left Willie in Khartoum in Sudan, having just helped in the evacuation of several Mossad officers in wooden crates, just one step ahead of Libyan counterintelligence operatives out of Khartoum airport. And we're going to rejoin that story with him still in Khartoum and other crazy stuff going on there. So I'm excited to pick that up.
Yep. And there's some other things they've been on the back burner, but coming onto the front burner for 2026. Some exciting stories, I think.
Yeah, I can't wait. The Willie Murkison one is so good. The Havana Syndrome Part 1 was so good because it's like an angle of the story that no one really talked about, where it's like these victims are getting like actively harassed by either foreign intelligence or whoever else. Like they're getting fucked with actively, as if they were like on assignment in a non-permissible country, or Israel, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
That happens to them there too.
Yeah.
Incredible. Also, like, because of the crazy news that happened last week with the National Guardsman getting shot and the one passing away, the former Afghan, can I call him a CTPT? Is that okay? Is that what he was? The 0 units? It was part of that?
It sounds like it to me, yeah.
Okay. It's likely a CTPT, counterterrorism pursuit team, Omega team, which was the CIA JSOC joint thing where they had Afghan militias.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little convoluted, but the Omega teams were actual U.S. Army guys that were attached to the agency for these things. Then there was the actual CTPTs, that were spread around the country. The one that this guy was a part of, I believe, was the Kandahar Strike Force. I actually have a couple pictures from a friend that thinks, this is the guy from tours he was with over there. But then the NDS called those units like NDS 01, 02, 03, hence 0 units. But they were only like kind of like on paper NDS units. Like in real life, they were being run and paid for by the CIA.
Yeah, the NDS being the Afghan intelligence service that the CIA created after the invasion of Afghanistan.
And we had a great, our last episode, Mick Mulroy was a former CIA paramilitary officer. He was intimately involved with those units and stuff like that. And he said it, and I kind of believe it. I mean, where these guys were vetted more than like 99% of the people that they worked with, the U.S. worked with anyway. And like, listen, if you're in war perpetually for 10 to 15 years, where like, servicemen go home after a few months or 6 months, these guys are working the whole time. I mean, you're not going to come out of it like a totally adjusted human being, I would assume. So I don't think it's out of, it's brutal what happened and he should go to jail and suffer the consequences. But I think it's like a larger conversation about kind of the fallout of the GWAT.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you guys want to read about the Omega teams and stuff, they have an incredible article with pictures that everybody else steals. They're incredible. You have to check it out. It's the High Side Substack. That link is in the description. Sorry, Sean, I cut you off. I wanted to get a plug in.
No, I think I was about to say the same thing. So if you want to read a bit more about the 0 units and the Omega teams, that we had a pretty in-depth article from a year or more ago on the site.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys to hawk our wares here, if you guys go and subscribe to the High Side, there's enough on there to keep you busy for a few weeks at least. And some of those articles are pretty substantially long, like 10, 15,000 words, and covers everything from like historical retrospectives about like the special forces teams jumping in backpack nukes, stuff that's kind of like obscure to the public, like the Commanders in Extremis Force. We have a whole article about that. And then things that have just been super top secret for many years, like the Omega teams. But also the investigation about Havana syndrome that you mentioned, ISAC preparing for ops in Gaza. There's all kinds of different stuff on there. CIA guys getting into trouble with the law.
Our rule of thumb at the High Side is it has to be substantially exclusive information. So, you're not getting just hot takes from us.
Right.
And
right.
That's not to disparage other people that do what I would call hot take national security websites. But what we are is investigative reporters. And so we hear of something and we dig into it. And then, if it's worth publishing, we publish it. And the rule is, if, one of the first things I often ask if somebody gives me a tip or says, hey, I know of this story you guys should do, is have you talked to any other reporters about it? Because if you have and they're going to do it, then we're not going to do it, because I'm not willing to invest a month of my time to just, add a little bit of knowledge to what's being published already. So that's, that's right. And I'm glad you mentioned how, how meaty the articles are. We're coming into winter now. You could definitely hole up in a cabin with a couple of good bottles of whiskey and the high side, and so long as you have electricity and an internet connection, you don't really need anything else to pass the time for a few days.
Are you guys sniffing anything about like Venezuela? What's going on there?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if they will end up reporting on. Well, look, if something big happens in Venezuela, I'm guaranteed we'll be reporting on it sooner or later. But yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen as far as on our end, because just like Sean kind of outlined the basic protocols of the stories we go after, like it has to be something that's newsworthy and previously unreported and properly sourced. So if those things come together, yeah, I mean, we'll report on it.
I think there's something real spicy with the CIA general counsel stepping down and the deputy director appointing himself general counsel. It's like a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need me to tell you firing all these JAGs and all these like legal count, like, yeah. What you think is happening is what is happening.
Yeah, if the CIA is to the point where like general counsels are resigning because like this might be too crazy what's going on, like it's pretty alarming. Because I might be right, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the general counsel of the CIA is also an appointed position. I don't think it's like it has to be approved by Congress. I've heard of that from a CIA guy.
It could be.
Yeah. So for the deputy director, so it's director, deputy director, and general counsel. Those are the three positions that are Senate confirmable. So for the deputy director to name himself interim general counsel because the general counsel who's there is like, I don't want to do this because what we're doing is fucking highly illegal. To me, there's spice there because, like, we're blowing up ships in the fucking Caribbean.
Yeah, well, that's JSOC doing that. And,
sure.
The CIA story right now is how little they're actually doing, perhaps.
So the word is that they went to the CIA and the CIA balked, but then JSOC picked up that baton.
Okay, so yeah, there's something to that. And if you recall Pete Hegseth's little trip down to Dam Neck, Virginia, and what that was about. Because Dam Neck balked at it too.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, your intuition on that is right. That there is some spicy content there.
Anything else, guys? Hit me with it. Carte blanche. Tell me. What are your deepest, darkest secrets?
Well, I think Jack and I like to, sit on a lot of the stuff that we get and not talk too much about it ahead of time until we know it's going to come to fruition. We've got, without exaggerating, I'd say we've got story tips, ideas that, that the core of a story, in several cases at the moment in our computers that would make Hollywood movies, and that we pretty much know are true, but proving that they're true and fleshing those stories out for just with just two of us is incredibly time consuming, and for each one that you're doing that with, whether the great example would be the Havana syndrome story you were referencing earlier about how some organization or organizations was taking it upon themselves to target Havana syndrome victims in the United States. That takes months and months of digging before and drafting the story before it's ready to go. And so these other ones would be too, but I'm excited to get to them because would blow some people's minds, blow a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I'm totally excited, and I could totally understand you guys have to triage stuff. It's only two of you.
Yeah.
I wish I could read and write. I would help, but I'm excited for what's to come for sure. There's some wild stuff, and I love and frankly, most reporters would probably run with the shit that they have just to get it out there and get clicks and not be well sourced and not be well researched. That's what I think cuts you guys above the rest. And that's why they all literally rip off your stuff. So that, get it at the high side. It's not expensive. It's $5 a month and you get hardcore investigative stuff where you're not reading anywhere else. I would say you guys are two of the best sourced reporters probably on this beat. I'm sure there are others that are great too that have it, but it's a very small, short list, I'd say.
There's not a lot of people in this field. I hope I'm not making promises I can't keep, but in 2026, we hope to, have some collaborations with friends of ours and that, who are outstanding national security reporters. There's one story I hope to get to, which we'll probably have 4 of us working on at the same time. So it's going to be interesting.
How do you, 4 of you guys?
Well, we have not written it yet, so
I'm just saying, how do
ourselves here.
4 investigative reporters, which are
everybody will bring something to the table on it, something different probably, and all of that will have to be combined into one holistic piece.
I can't wait. And guess what? Everybody who's listening or watching right now, I am a paid subscriber at the high side. So if I could do it, you could do it because I can get these articles for free if I really want. So do yourself a favor and get the high side. That link is in the description. Also, Jack Murphy, We Defy, The Secret History of Special Forces.
Out now on Amazon.
That link will be in the description. Sean Naylor, if you guys don't know, people who are watching this know, but he literally wrote the book on JSOC, Relentless Strike. Incredible book. One of the 4 books I've ever read in my life. So really, really good. No bullshit. That link is in the description as well. And I think that Willie Murkison series is a book.
Yeah, I've told Sean that it should be a book.
It is a book. And honestly, if Willie Murkison's cool with it and they're his family and stuff, self-publish it. Don't even wait for a fucking publisher.
Yeah, and see that book or the honestly the stuff that was happening in Sudan while he was there could be a book in and of itself. I mean, that's just because that's tight in terms of the timeline. It's just a few years. There's incredible drama there, and it's it's in a sort of a very Hollywood friendly sort of exotic locale. Khartoum is the hottest capital city in the world, statistically.
Yeah, I won't be visiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read about it in the book. I won't be visiting. Guys, as always, this is awesome. Of course, the Team House podcast. Check that out. Check out all the other guys' stuff, too. Those links are in the description. The best place to support the show, this show and Team House, is patreon.com/the Team House. You get both Eyes on Geopolitics and Team House episodes ad-free early. You can message us, tell us how handsome we are. And High Side. Check out their Substack. It's down in the description. Do yourself a favor. If you're interested in national security, espionage, all the things we're interested in, and you watch the show for, that's the one Substack you should subscribe to. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, I want to tell all of you today about a new newsletter that we're launching that encompasses both the Team House podcast, the Eyes On podcast, and the High Side news outlet, which I run with Sean Naylor. The newsletter is going to be once a week. It's going to come into your inbox, and you're going to get the most current podcasts on Eyes On and the Team House and whatever's topical or current on the high side. So it's another way for us to get the information out to you, as social media algorithms are pretty iffy and you never really know what you're going to get. So this is a once a week email. It'll slide into your inbox and it will have, the greatest hits of that week.
It's really good, man. I'm checking it out.
The website for it is teamhousepodcast.kit.com/join. teamhousepodcast.kit.com/join. You go there and you enter into your email list, or you enter your email into the little thing on the website, and you're good to go. And that'll be it. So we really appreciate your support and hope you'll consider signing up.
Where's the link?
The link will also be down in the description if you're looking for it there.
And that's teamhousepodcast.kit, KIT, Kilo India Tango.com /join.